Growing for Market podcast. Now, when you were using edible flowers, how did you utilize them?
Part of this happened by accident, and the fact that we were around so many high-end restaurants and bars. So bartenders love to put a little flower on a drink. Pastry chefs love to use them on everyday desserts, but also for wedding cakes and things like that, specialty desserts. And chefs pull the flowers apart and put them on salads. And there is something about the beauty of a flower and the colors that you aren't used to seeing on your plate that makes the experience of eating a flower kind of magical. And chefs have tapped into that. So I'm so happy to hear that this is the year of the edible flower.
It is. Hello, and welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, where we talk about growing, marketing, and the business of growing vegetables and flowers for local markets, like farmers markets, CSAs, farm stands, and local wholesaling. I'm April Parms Jones, your host and a writer for Growing for Market magazine. For 33 years, the magazine for flower and vegetable market farmers. If you're enjoying the podcast, just wait until you see the magazine. Go to growingformarket.com for more. Also, if you could give us a follow and a rating, it really helps other like-minded people to find the podcast. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or vegetables for your family, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment for a harvest you can count on. Rimmel greenhouses are strong, durable, and easy to assemble, offering the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Rimmel greenhouses are proudly built right here in America and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. With technical sales staff members located across the country, many with growing experience, the Rimmel Greenhouse's team of experts will serve as your trusted partner every step of the way to ensure that you get exceptional value from your greenhouse investment. Visit Rimmel.com to get a quote today. Today's episode of the Growing for Market podcast is brought to you by BCS America. On our farm, we've had our BCS two-wheel tractor for over a decade, and with no belts to slip, its all-gear-driven construction is still going strong. Though we originally got it for rototilling, we kept it even when we went mostly no-till because it can do so many other things around the farm. From snow blowing, to making raised beds with the rotary plow, to chipping wood, it can do just about anything you might need on a farm with the right attachment. Need to shred a cover crop? A BCS flail mower will make quick work of even the most vigorous cover crop and chop it up so it breaks down quickly. Want to stir in compost or amendments without inverting soil layers? A power harrow turns your BCS into a precise tilthing machine with depth control so you don't mix deeper than you want to. With so many attachments to choose from, it truly is the Swiss Army knife of farm implements. It's why, instead of saying two-wheel tractor, so many people just say BCS. Tractors and attachments are on sale through the end of the year. Visit bcsamerica.com to find sale pricing and your nearest dealer. Local Line is the most popular software platform for farmers and food hubs selling direct to consumer. With features like e-commerce, inventory management, subscriptions, and box builder, Local Line helps you grow sales, save time, and streamline your operations. In fact, last year, farms that used Local Line grew their sales by 23%. Ready to switch to a proven sales software that does it all? Local Line has no setup fees, no commissions, and will migrate your storefront for free, so you'll be up and running in no time. As a GFM podcast listener, Local Line is offering a free premium feature for 1 year with your subscription using the coupon code GFM2025. Don't wait. Start your season off the right way with Local Line.
Hello, everyone. This is April Parms Jones. Thank you so much for joining us today with the Growing for Market podcast. Today, I have the immense pleasure to have Kelley Rajala from the beautiful state of Minnesota, where it's wonderful and happiness and wonderful soil. So, thank you so much for joining us, Kelley. Kelley is the co owner of Lake Gardens, and she is striving for sustainability. She has specialized crops. As I said, she's in the beautiful state of Minnesota, and she does vegetables, fruit, herbs, flowers, mushrooms, and more. So, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and for sharing your farming journey with our listeners.
Thank you, April. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Akron, Ohio. It's sunny and the snow is out. How are things in Minnesota?
Well, it was -13 this morning with a feels like temperature of -35.
Ooh, I love it.
So, but the sun is shining and it's so beautiful when the sun is shining, blue sky, and that makes all the difference in the world. If it was that cold and cloudy, it'd be another story.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love about being in a colder climate, which people do love to hate on the colder climate, but you have killing of the nematodes, killing of the pests, killing of the blight and the evilness that can come and attack your farm and your garden and your crop the next year. I mean, you're like killing that life cycle very quickly and swiftly. So that is such a blessing to have for sure.
It is. And the mosquitoes die temporarily. That's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Down with the pests, up with the cold. So, Kelley, can you tell me a little bit about your journey? Because it's quite expansive. I mean, it's cross state, multi state destination and farming. And so, to be able to have that resource of the Midwest, but also the West Coast, can you just tell us a little bit about your food and farming journey?
Sure. My partner and husband, Eric Robinson, and I started farming 2012, I think it was. And this had been a long path for me, kind of looking at planetary overshoot and really taking a deep dive into economic localization and community development. And I was very much espousing buying locally and all things local. And it was like, well, if we're going to tell people to buy local, I think I should know how to grow my own food. And so we started growing in our front yard. And I actually held a workshop with Curtis Stone from Canada, who a lot of people will know. Curtis did a 3-day workshop for us on spin farming, small plot intensive farming. And I ended up after the workshop, I took postcards to all my neighbors' mailboxes and said, would you consider letting us farm in your front or backyard? And so we got a couple of takers in our neighborhood. We lived in Santa Rosa, California at the time, right downtown Santa Rosa, busy streets and everything. And we started growing and selling to the local restaurant, our favorite little restaurant right down the street from us. And he actually was from Minnesota and gave us a shot. And we were selling him our beautiful tomatoes and lettuce. And we ended up growing on a larger piece of property where Eric's parents lived out in Forestville, which was about 11 miles from us. And we got connected to our food hub, which was called Feed Sonoma, best food hub, phenomenal. And that allowed us to really grow. And we ended up specializing in edible flowers. And through the food hub, we were able to get these edible flowers and everything else we grew. I mean, to the California market, rhubarb was really exotic, and we grew horseradish. We grew a lot of things that most of the farms didn't grow. So we kind of found our little niche in there and got our things to really fancy restaurants all across the whole Bay Area: Oakland, Berkeley, San Jose, San Francisco, Napa. And it was wonderful. We loved it. And at the same time, we were feeling a lot of pressure of just the population getting more and more dense. And then in 2017, we had the huge wildfires come through Santa Rosa. They wiped out 5,000 homes in one night. And it was horrifying. And it was really hard for us working outside all the time, breathing in that horrible smoky air. And it wasn't just that one year and that one fire. It was like 5 years of consecutive horrible fires and smoke for our region. And we ended up pitching to my family that now might be the right time for Eric and I to move back to Minnesota, where we had a family property that nothing had been done for a few years after my grandparents had died. And the family said, you know what? Yes, now could be the time for this. And so we moved back to Minnesota in 2020 and have been working since on building a new farm business called Clear Lake Gardens.
That is so amazing. I love that story. I was writing down notes. It's so much to cover just in that little tidbit. But yeah, I mean, I think the last note that you talked about is that with the ever changing weather patterns, right, that we're all experiencing, it's making people have to make really tough decisions, right? Like, is this the community that I want to be in? I love this community, but is this something that I can mitigate? Can I mitigate the loss if I lose a home or if I lose a business or a car? Can I mitigate the environmental impacts, right, that are happening because of this changing weather and that we're all experiencing? I just saw an article in Detroit that the water main broke and then the water flooded the southwest neighborhood of Detroit, and like 200 homes were affected. Cars were underwater, homes were underwater through no fault of their own, right? They're just living their lives, doing their things that they're doing normally. And the water main broke and it's really cold outside. And so these are the things that we all have to mitigate. And so, especially in the farming context, thinking more about how we as in the farming community can mitigate these sort of environmental and climate effects that are happening on our land. Now, I love that you talked about the economic localization. Can you tell me more about that? That sounds really interesting.
Yes. So I was an environmental studies major in college. And so I have been watching these slow moving disasters coming towards us for like 30 plus years. And, when I found out this was back in the late 80s that the Colorado River never even got to the Gulf of Mexico, it was horrifying, and it just seems so unsustainable. And just knowing that we live on a planet with finite resources, it just was total common sense to me. Like, we cannot go on this way. And so I started looking at what can we do as communities, what can I do as an individual. And the more research I did, what became clear was that if we can simplify our lives, need less, get more of what we need as locally as possible, reduce long supply chains, we would be more resilient. And there was an organization at that time called the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. BALI was the acronym. And I just connected with this group, loved these people. And there were people who had a similar mindset of localization is one of the things that we can do to prepare for the future and to have more control over where our community is going. And, it made more sense. That scale works. And this was actually also at the time where big box stores were opening up left and right, and Walmart came on. And, it was like, oh my gosh, we are so not going in the right direction here, but full steam ahead, here we go. And so anyway, I, along with other folks, started a local chapter of this organization and started a whole bunch of initiatives around localization. And, many communities have go local, play local, shop local, eat local, all that kind of stuff. And I think our group in Sonoma County took it to another level. And it was right after the housing crash in 2007 and 08. And the independent local businesses in that region really adopted it. And it became a huge marketing program in the county. And it was awesome. I mean, it was really a cool program. So anyway, that's also how I got into the food localization was our local grocery store really took this up and was looking for more opportunities for people who were producing local food and local farms. And, there was wide acceptance of the whole idea. So the community really embraced it. And I still think that that's a wonderful strategy for communities to look at is economic localization, supporting people who make things locally, highlighting those people, helping to incubate more businesses that are needed. If you're, outsourcing materials and you could be producing them locally, communities should be doing that. So that's kind of the gist.
Yeah, I really love that. And I think that that's such a resource that farmers and food producers, gardeners, etc., food hubs can all utilize is that you can create your own economy in a sense by supporting localization, supporting like a localization group like you stated that you were part of, and then incorporating more and more people within that ecosystem of community in your localization efforts. And so that is a great way to build support immediately for your business. And instead of just saying, like, oh, I am local, like if you have time or if you have time to partner with a localized group, that immediately gives you a larger customer base, more proselytization skills, and sharing, the power of localization. Like you said, it's so important because it builds our own resiliency and it allows us to control our food system and have the same values and ideas that we want around our food culturally.
Exactly. And I think that it's relationship building, just like you said, and we're actually kind of in the middle of it here in Minnesota. So we moved to somewhere very rural. I mean, our county, which is huge geographically, has one stoplight. It's crazy. And I mean, very rural. And we are trying to develop relationships with potential buyers for our farm here. And the scale of challenges is so different from where we were in California. I mean, it's been fantastic for us. I mean, a lot of learning opportunities. It's a different scale. And I feel like we're still working on that same principle of building relationships with our local restaurants, with our local grocery stores. And they want to be buying local, but we have a lot of chicken and egg problem here where we need to have enough farmers producing enough food so that the local markets can know that they can get things consistently from the local farmers. I mean, that whole thing, it's an age-old problem, but part of the localization challenge is making sure you can balance out the supply and demand.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like that is the problem with localized food is that there's only so much that a producer on a smaller scale can produce. And once it's maxed out, it's maxed out. And sometimes you have to wait till the next season or like, the next week, the next month, maybe 2 months. You never know. And so that is definitely, I can definitely understand what you're saying. That's so much harder to deal with when restaurants are now more dependent on like having the same thing every single time. Like I feel like when I was a little girl, things were seasonal. Like you could get something at that localized restaurant for a week. And when those tomatoes ran out, then we're moving on to the next dish, right? And so it's like always constantly changing. And so that was kind of like the fun of it. But now we're in the new model with the restaurants where it's like every single time you come, there's going to be tomatoes. Every single time you come, there's going to be an egg sandwich available for you. And so people are sort of more like into that rigidity of having access to the same thing. Where I personally feel like I love having the surprise of like, what's in season? Is it going to be here? Is it going to run out? I like that little surprise. So I definitely understand what you're saying there. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Harnois Greenhouses has been pioneering greenhouse design since 1965, working alongside market gardeners and farmers across North America to deliver turnkey greenhouse solutions. Their mission is simple: supporting growers' success with innovative, high performance structures engineered for strength, efficiency, and longevity. Designed to withstand high snow and wind loads, their greenhouses optimize brightness, boost yields, and offer a rapid ROI. With over 20,000 projects completed, they're more than just a manufacturer. They're a trusted partner in building sustainable, energy efficient growing environments. Their NRCS approved freestanding greenhouse, the Ovaltech, remains a top choice for year round production. And in 2025, they're introducing a new low tech high tunnel, starting at just $2 per square foot, perfect for growers seeking an affordable, durable solution. As a Growing for Market listener, you'll receive an exclusive 5% discount on all new structures. Harnois Greenhouses, leading the way in turnkey solutions for local growers. Check them out at harnois.com. That's HARNOIS.com. Spring is here, and CSA season is in full swing. If you're ready to grow your CSA and reclaim your time, Farmhand is here to help. With built-in marketing and subscription tools that automate everything from customer support and newsletters to weekly add-ons and billing, Farmhand helps you delegate the busy work so you can stay focused on the farm. On average, Farmhand saves CSA farmers over 10 hours a week. That's 10 extra hours to spend with your family, in the field, or just taking a well-earned breather. Set up a one-to-one demo with Ari, Farmhand's founder and a farmer himself. He'll show you exactly how to streamline your operations, grow your CSA, and stay competitive, all with tools designed for small farms. Make this your most profitable season yet. Get started at farmhand.partners/GFM. That's farmhand.partners/GFM.
And now back to the show. Could you talk a little bit about the restaurants? I feel like a lot of our listeners are interested in getting access to restaurants and selling to restaurants, but what would you say is the biggest thing that producers can do to start facilitating that restaurant relationship?
Well, if you don't have a food hub that you can connect to, you can just approach the restaurateurs directly and make sure that you're going to meet them at a time where they're not really busy. You can pop in, but you can also make an appointment. If you do pop in, you want to go like in the morning when they're not super busy. You never want to show up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon before the dinner time. Bring them samples, tell them a little bit about your farm. If you have a handout, something semi-professional that you can give them that gives details about your farm. Many restaurateurs are very receptive and looking for those opportunities because the farmers will help them promote their restaurant because the public is looking for healthy, fresh, local food. So, for some restaurants, it's a no-brainer. Our problem in where we are is that 99% of the restaurants really buy off the truck, the Cisco truck, and they have to. That's just, it's unless they're going to do a special that's seasonal. And in order to have their menu, they need to be consistent. And with our situation where we are so rural, I understand the dilemma for them. But you can also make suggestions, even in that situation, like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a special or doing a special soup or putting fresh tomatoes on when it's tomato season and having a caprese salad? Or it's helpful if the farmer gives the chefs some ideas based on what the farmer will have available. And I think they appreciate that too.
I love that idea. Yeah, I feel like it sometimes as a like farm producer or food producer, you don't want to step on the toes of the chef. Like this is my own thoughts. You don't want to step on the toes of the chef. Like you just feel like they are all knowing in this food realm. But I love that idea of saying like, this is what I have. This is why it's great having some documentation of the farm, but also saying like, these are recipes or these are some ideas, food concepts that I think would be very popular with your customer base. And that really alleviates the stress for the chef. They don't have to use their brain. They're like, oh, yeah, that does sound really wonderful. I do like that idea. I can incorporate something. And I like how you're saying that it's something small that you can say, oh, this is just a special. And then you can kind of expand from there instead of saying, like, I'm going to stock all your tomatoes for the whole summer. That's a lot of pressure on both sides. So I love that idea of just starting out small, having some recipes that you can say will be popular, and then growing out that relationship. Yeah, that's really good. That's very effective. I love it. It's exciting. So, we've been talking about in this restaurant realm, sticking to that theme. There's a new article in Food and Wine magazine, and they said 2025 food trend of 2025 edible flowers. I love it. Yes. Yay. Edible flowers.
That is so cool.
Isn't that so cool? That's great for producers in the farm land because they can create their own edible flowers, sell them to restaurants, sell them to customers, and utilize them. And you can dry them or you can have them fresh. I mean, there's just so many ways to use flowers. Now, when you were using edible flowers, how did you utilize them?
Well, part of this happened by accident. And the fact that we were around so many, high end restaurants and bars. So bartenders love to put a little flower on a drink. Pastry chefs love to use them on everyday desserts, but also for wedding cakes and things like that, specialty desserts. And chefs pull the flowers apart and put them on salads. And there is something about the beauty of a flower and the colors that you aren't used to seeing on your plate that makes the experience of eating a flower kind of magical. And chefs have tapped into that. So I'm so happy to hear that this is the year of the edible flower.
It is.
And so last year we did an event. Since we moved here, we've been building our farm, but we've also been doing several big events. And last year, our big event was called the Sip and Savor. And we invited about 10 restaurants to produce a dish for the public. And they partnered with local farms to make these dishes. And one of the things that we featured was an edible flower bar for the public. So, because we're trying to drive the demand, and part of that comes from the public even knowing what an edible flower is. But we had little dishes with the different flowers and all the different colors, and people could actually walk up and taste a borage or walk up and taste a nasturtium. And people had never done that before. So that was a novel experience for them. And it also was eye-opening for the chefs who were there, like, oh, edible flowers, didn't know that was even a thing. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I love that idea because, like you're saying, it's so important to educate the chefs, but also the customers on and giving them an opportunity to experience it in a safe environment where they feel safe, loved, and having a good time and can be a little experimental and they can taste it and say, oh, this was delicious. Or I like a sunflower over the borage or vice versa. And it gives them an opportunity to compare and to contrast. And then when they're in a restaurant setting, they're like, oh, I've already experienced. They're at a dinner party, at the restaurant. I've experienced this. Let me tell you, I'm an expert. And then they can tell their friends about it. And then they can also experience in the restaurant setting. So I love that, allowing the customers to have that educational experience, and they can have it at an event or they could have it at like a farmer's market. And so just really allowing your customers to have that experience is amazing. Yeah, I'm actually writing an article about edible flowers. Well, I'm incorporating it into an article that I'm writing, and it's exciting. And so I'm like researching, and I'd already saw the article in Food and Wine, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I personally will be growing my own edible flowers this year. We'll be having them on salads and maybe sugaring them and putting on a cake or something. So I'm excited.
They're really easy to grow. I mean, you can grow a lot of different types of edible flowers and all different colors and textures. And, some can be used in skincare, and there's a lot you can do with them. I wish that they had special magical properties, where it was like super duper healthy for you. And I'm hoping that someday some scientist will unlock, the information that these beautiful edible flowers are actually super healthy for you. I mean, they're good for you, but they're, I don't know how many vitamins or minerals there are in them, because I don't know that research has been done.
No, absolutely. I'm all a fan of science and research, and that's an excellent idea for sure to research more about the flower power.
The flower power.
Flower power. We had Bevan Cohen of Small House Farm in the beautiful state of Michigan, which is, not too far from where you are. And he presses his own oils. And so he has a poppy seed oil that he presses, and I use it on my face. It's very light, airy, and beautiful, and it's very moisturizing. So it is really good for skincare as well, like you said, using those flowers. It's amazing what you can do with them. So,
So
yeah, it's such
cool.
a resource. So, can you tell me a little bit about, we're going to kind of stick with the flower power and the farm. Like, what are the varieties of tomatoes and lettuce varieties or any other things that you're growing that you're really excited about for 2025 for your farm?
Well, we're a specialty crop farm, so we grow a little of everything. And we also have a cut flower component to our farm. And last year we opened that up for U-Pick, which was a big deal for us. And we have 3 high tunnels. One of them is kind of a mixture of things, including flowers. The second high tunnel is primarily tomatoes and herbs. And we grow heirloom tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and sauce tomatoes. Then that is one of our specialties. We grow a lot of them, and Eric trellises them, so they grow all the way up to the top of the high tunnel, and it's very compact and dense and prolific, his method that he uses. And then our third high tunnel, we do peppers and eggplant and other herbs in there, but that are peppers and eggplant primarily. So let's see what else. We've got our raspberry crop last year was fantastic. And so we're hoping we have lots of raspberries. We do both red and golden raspberries. And those were really popular at the farmer's market. We started doing the farmer's market last year for our first time ever. We had said we didn't want to do farmer's market. There's so much schlepping but where we are in our ruralness, we kind of had to take an approach, an always selling approach. So wholesale through our food hub, direct to restaurants and markets. We have an on-site farm stand that's open all the time, just on the honor system. And then at the farmer's market, we started doing that last year, and we were really happy to do that. It was like 25% of our income. So it was important, an important component of our business. But it was interesting for me to see the public's response to different items on our table. And the raspberries were probably our most popular thing. And so there's that. We have some fruit, and that got snatched up right away. People up here really love local fruit. We grow a little of everything, and a lot of things that were familiar to us, like fava beans. Nobody knows what a fava bean is here. So that, there's been some education and a little bit of scaling back on our part. Minnesotans don't love eggplant. They don't totally love super hot peppers. And,
No. It's the Midwest.
It's been a lot of learning and, experimenting. And oh my gosh, the things we're doing to sell this stuff is pretty funny. But yeah, it's been a journey. We're loving it. We're learning. And we grow a lot of garlic. Garlic is one of our specialties too. And last year we got hit with the Astor's yellow, which is a leaf hopper that comes and bites into the leaf of the garlic, and then it turns this weird color. And you can eat it. It's totally fine to eat, but you can't replant the bulbs, and you can't sell the bulbs for seed. So that was a real disappointment. And it hit the whole state of Minnesota. So
Oof.
I guess from that standpoint, I didn't feel quite as bad, but yeah, that wasn't so good.
Do you think it was because it was a warmer winter last year?
Yes, I do. And this is one of the things, talking about resilience on the farm and preparing for the future. All I can say is I'm glad we were not just a garlic grower and that's all we did. To me, in my mind, and as small as we are, we're just a 2-person, 2-acre farm. I want to be diversified because I don't want to have a pest or bug or anything wipe us out completely. So I'm one of the people who feels like diversification is an important thing for our business, not just in our crop variety, but doing the flowers. We do events, we do classes and workshops. This year we hope to add a campsite so people could come and do a farm stay.
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
idea.
but the weather, oh my gosh, the weather's been really, and it's just this is the way it is. So we have to adapt. We have to be really resilient and adaptable.
Yeah, I love that idea. What you're saying is that as things are progressing throughout our lives, we have to be more diversified to mitigate from future loss, right? And to insulate ourselves from these variables that are outside of our control. And so, yeah, I love that idea of having the U pick, doing the berries, doing the herbs, doing the vegetables that we all need to eat to be strong and healthy. And so I love having that variety of experiences. And I love like if I'm a customer of your farm, I love that I'm also able to experience all those things. I'm able to buy the berries, I'm able to get the garlic, I'm able to get the vegetables, I'm able to attend events and then also educate myself. And then if I want to stay at a farm, I can do that as well, which is nice. I think it's good to allow people to have access to nature and to farming and to kind of be able to see right away where their food is coming from.
Definitely.
It's amazing. Now, can you tell me about the golden raspberry? I don't know if I've had one or not. What's the difference between the red and the golden?
I would say that the golden is not as tart as the red raspberry. They're a little bit more mild, I'd say. They're really good and juicy. The variety we have, it tends to be a little more plump and bigger than
Oh,
the red
okay.
raspberries. But I hope that the crop will just continue to get better and better. 2 years ago, our raspberries got really decimated by bugs. I don't know what it was. And they also are susceptible to sun scald, where they get a little bit burnt. And that's so, it's farming. If it's not a problem here, there's a problem over there. And you just have to stay on your toes.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Now the golden, I have red raspberries at my farm in Akron, Ohio, but I'm like, maybe I need to get golden raspberries. There's always something else you can add.
I think it's nice to have a variety. Yeah, I'm all about the variety.
Yeah, I am too. I have like blackberries and other types of berries, but the raspberries really did well. And then I also was incorporating the raspberry leaf into like my diet. Like I put it in salads, but I also would drink it as a herbal tea. And it was really like comforting and healing. And so I was like, oh man, this is like powerful. Who knew the power of a raspberry leaf? So I was like, maybe I need to expand my raspberry power.
You're giving me an idea. So, our big event that we're planning to do this year is going to somehow relate to food as medicine. And I see a real opportunity for our county to embrace healthy food in relation to health because our biggest employer is our local hospital here. And our county has a new program. It's called Aitken, which our county is called Aitken Naturally Better. And I could see us becoming a destination for alternative healing practices and cleansing and healthy food. I think there's a real opportunity for that. So thank you for that. One of the topics for our educational panel will be probably herbalism and what people can do with herbs and raspberry leaf and maybe edible flowers. But I think food as medicine, that's just something that's going to get, now that we are all becoming more aware of all the microplastic we're eating and how important it is to really cleanse all the time. I think it's a topic that's going to be in the news more and more.
Food is medicine, which is so important. And I agree with you that that is going to definitely be the new trend that's going to be happening is that food will become medicine, and people are going to be thinking more about how they can stay healthier, be healthier through their own means of control, which is food, which is awesome. Now, how are you guys enjoying having the farm stand?
Oh, we love the farm stand. It's been great for us. We do not live on a busy road, so we've had to do a lot of marketing. And what started as I was going to do a little postcard with our farm stand and two other farms that are kind of close to us who are friends of ours. And it morphed into a bigger project that highlighted 11 farms in our county and where people could find their produce, whether it was on site farm stands or at the farmers market. And so it was the Aitken Farm Trail, and we hope to reprint that, redo it again this year, and reprint it. But people love farm stands. They like going to farms. We try to have greens in there all the time. We have a refrigerator, so we have fermented foods in there that can do with our cottage food license. We have our flowers in there too, so I make up bouquets, and those are in there as well. And then it just changes throughout the season. So as soon as tomatoes come in, half of the farm stand is filled with tomatoes, and then when the squash and pumpkins come in, it's overflowing with squash. And there's always, we don't have a ton of any one thing, but there's a little bit of a lot of different things, and people appreciate that variety. And the fact that it's on an honor system, people find that fascinating. They're not used to being able to just come and make change and do their thing and not have to interact with someone at the farm. And I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, I love the honor system because I think it allows us to have more trust in people and just to say, like, you're going to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing. This is a trusting relationship that we're building and going from there. I love that idea. I love a good farm stand. I feel like we need more of them in our lives for sure.
Well, and we have gotten comments from people that are so happy, and it's just so unusual to encounter the honor system these days for obvious reasons. It's like a throwback to the more simple times when you could trust random strangers, to do the right thing. And people really, that's like a little element that I wasn't expecting, but people have commented on how they love the honor system.
Yeah, it is. It gives you hope for for the future and for your community. And it really does build the community aspect of you're like, I'm in the community, you're in the community, I'm trustworthy, you're trustworthy. And so it really does build relationships of like trust, even within your own little small ecosystem of your community, which is, it's a blessing for sure. I love that you talked about how you have to educate your customers and then also like dealing with customer trends. So, in some regions of the country, people like certain things. Some people like spicy food in certain regions, and some people like more bland food in other parts of the region. And so, really modifying your growing practices towards that palate, whatever it may be. How do you find that process of education for yourself to be going? And then also, like, what advice would you give for growers?
Well, you have to start by trying different things and putting them out there and seeing how people respond to them. And if people aren't responding well, but you think that they just haven't been exposed to it yet, or they need some ideas, which is, I think, often the case that at least where we are, people just haven't tried these things. So an example, the first year we were here, we grew a lot of peppers, a whole variety of every kind of pepper. And we ended up holding a pepper fest for our friends in our neighborhood here. And the deal was we gave them the list of all the different peppers we grew, and they were to come up with a dish and then let us know which bag of peppers they wanted from us. And then we all got together and had a pepper fest where everybody brought their own dish that was made from our peppers. And we had the craziest mix of things. Like somebody brought a jalapeno chocolate cake. And I was like,
Was
what?
it tasty?
It was awesome.
Oh, okay.
Somebody else made pepper infused drinks. I mean, and Nobody brought the same thing. It was so fun and interesting, and people exchanged recipes. So that was just a little experience so that people could try different things and get exposed to different kinds of peppers, and it just opens up possibilities. So I don't like to do the same thing over and over again. So I like to try different things. And even with the eggplant, which has been a challenge, we have one fantastic restaurant. We have many, I shouldn't say one restaurant. There are several that seek out local produce from the local farmers, but one in particular, and we're actually featured with them in our Farmers Union calendar this year. They're called Block North in the town of Aitken. And the Chef Peter, I'm like, eggplant. And he's like, yeah, no, people don't love eggplant. He doesn't love eggplant. But he ended up ordering eggplant from us and making some dish that he said people loved. And so he'll never buy a ton of eggplant, but he appreciates mixing up his menu and doing specials and trying it. And it's just sort of everything to me is kind of an experiment, and building on the experiments that go well and trying to think about, okay, why isn't this working? Should we stop doing this? Which is definitely an option. Like, okay, we're not going to grow as much eggplant, but we still want to do it. We like eating it. And we know that there are other people that do like it once they know we have it. People will come and find us to get their eggplant. So anyway, that's just an example.
Yeah, I love those examples. Those are really excellent examples where I love the Pepper Fest. That's exciting. So, allowing people to use their creativity and that engages them, that anchors them in the product, in the jalapeno and the pepper experience in general. And then also, it allows them to have fun and excitement around a pepper. And I love that. And you're creating community and relationships and creating really great memories. And so I think that is the key that we've been talking about throughout our conversation, is that people are really allowed to create food memories with this delicious, amazing food products that we all have as farmers. And then they can proselytize their food stories to others. And it makes life more fun and exciting. So I love that idea. It's a great idea for farmers and gardeners to be able to use. So you mentioned your farmers union. You're in the Minnesota Farmers Union. How has that been a help to you as a farmer? And what have been your positive, happy experiences with the process? Because every union is different. I'm in the Ohio Farmers Union. And so every little organization in the union is different based on our states and our histories and the people and the culture. So can you tell me about the Minnesota Farmers Union and your happy experiences?
Yeah, they have been so helpful to us. So, in general, I have found that the state of Minnesota has so many programs for farmers. I did not experience any of this in California, not one. And it could be that we just weren't tapped into the right channels to learn about programs, but in Minnesota, they are everywhere, and it's been fantastic. So, there's a nonprofit called Renewing the Countryside. I'm not sure if they're in Ohio, but I signed up to be in one of their programs called Come and Get It. And it was a training program to teach farmers how to do on-site farm events and like food festivals kind of things. And so it was a 2-year program, and we had to do a big event our first year. And we did something called the Aitken Summer Farm Festival. And the chef I was talking about was at the festival and provided food for people. And somebody from the Farmers Union was there and met Peter and somehow put our farm together with the Block North and invited us to be in their calendar. So every year, I think they've done it for a long time, like 25 years. They put out a calendar every year that every month features a farmer and a restaurant. and how they work together. So this year we're featured in August, and it's not just our farm. I didn't want it to be about our farm, so I ended up kind of pushing it towards our food hub, our Aitken food hub, who's fantastic, and we really want to promote the food hub and help them grow. So because we were in the calendar, that got picked up in a magazine that is in this area. And that opportunity has gone into some speaking opportunities for us. And oh my gosh, what else just happened? It's like been a snowball of these opportunities. The reason I'm talking to you today is because our farmers union membership gal Claudine, who's fantastic, said, hey, hooked us up. So it's really been full of opportunities for us.
Yeah, I mean, I love being a part of the farmers union, and I love being just part of the farming community at large. And what I love about it is that, like you said, it's like a network, and you know someone and they know someone, and then you're just able to connect and good things happen, and you're able to share stories and the highs, the lows, and the mediums of life and farming. And so I think it's always just like you said, like a great resource to have people that are advocating for you, promoting you or on your side and elevating you to higher farming levels and exposing you to more customers who would be able to purchase and live a healthier life because they're eating healthier. So that's a great story. I love it. I love the idea of a good calendar.
Well, I'll also say that opportunity just keeps rolling. So we're featured on the cover of Agriculture magazine this month for February for the Farmers Union.
Ooh, that's exciting. Oh, wow.
Is a huge deal for us. I mean, that never, ever would have happened. Yeah, it's huge. And it was an opportunity for me to tell the story of my grandfather, who has been had been in Minnesota agriculture since he was a small kid. And he ended up being the deputy commissioner of agriculture for the state of Minnesota, and he was really big into agricultural cooperatives. That was his primary profession, was in cooperatives. So I got to kind of retell, the story of my grandpa, and it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's such a legacy when you have family members who have been working the land and part of the history of the land of a state for so long. It's just such a blessing. And, there's just such great work. I mean, who can be mad at a person working the land and elevating farmers? It's very honorable for sure. And so that's so wonderful you're able to share that story.
And working cooperatively, working the cooperative business model has so much to offer, and it's too bad there aren't more cooperative businesses, but that's something I believe really strongly in. And it's nice being in Minnesota where there are a lot of cooperatives. It's just a different, sometimes the for-profit business doesn't really do it, and the nonprofit doesn't exactly do it, and co-op is kind of right in the middle. And co-ops, working with co-ops and all of that. We need a lot more cooperation in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't love a good co-op? I remember when I was actually born in San Diego. And so before I moved to the beautiful state of Ohio. And so I went to the co-op. I remember my first grocery store memories. And I do love a grocery store. I do still love to grocery shop. And we'd go to the co-op. And that was like, 1980s. So the co-op was like real rustic and they had lots of bins, and you'd always have to like go and get the flour or like get the nuts. And I remember you like open it and the little nuts would come out. And it was just so amazing. And then sometimes I could get the leather fruit bar. Do you remember those? Like the fruit leather. And then they had really good sparkling juices. And sometimes I get a sparkling juice. I mean, the things that I remember at the co-op. But it was the most wonderful place because the prices were wonderful, and so I could get a lot of bang for my buck. So I could get more out of my mother for food, which was exciting. And people were just really nice and friendly, and they brought in their own glass jars and their own bags, and it was just such a community. And so I agree with you. Co-op businesses are the best. They just give the customers so much more. The workers are happier. It's a happier experience for all because they're cooperating and sharing your economic power, which is so important.
Exactly.
Well, I am so thankful that you came on the podcast today. You've been a true wealth of knowledge for our listeners. And we have basically gone the gamut and learned so much from edible flowers to how to sell at a restaurant, how to use your economic localization power, creating food hubs, how you can access your food hub to get more resources out into your community, and then also the wonderful events like the Pepper Fest and how to have an event and to educate your customers and to give them access to all the beautiful things that you are doing on your farm in the beautiful state of Minnesota. So I'm so thankful that you came on. I know that I learned a great deal, and I'm sure that our listeners will also be very blessed with your wealth of knowledge that you've been so gracious to share with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. It's like so wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you and share our story. And I do hope people can resonate with different pieces of our story, and farmers need to stick together and share ideas. And you really help make that happen. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been really a great pleasure to have you on. And thank you again so much for sharing. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. I hope we stay in touch.
Yes, we will.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing for Market podcast. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider giving us a follow and a rating or review. It really helps others to find the podcast. For more tips and tricks from farmer to farmer, check out our magazine at growingformarket.com. Whether you're a commercial grower or just want to grow like one, subscribe to Growing for Market magazine for the nitty-gritty of growing, marketing, and the business of market farming. We publish 10 issues per year with articles written by experienced farmers on topics ranging from tools and techniques to farm business, operations, and marketing. If you've been listening to the Growing for Market podcast and haven't yet checked out Growing for Market magazine, we've made a change so you can try the magazine for free. We've added a free month to the beginning of all first-time subscriptions. Try out the digital or paper magazine, and if it's not for you, cancel within 28 days, and you'll never get billed. With digital subscriptions starting at just $39 per year. You'll get a year of the magazine plus 150 back issues from the last 15 years. Head over to Growing for Market and subscribe today to benefit from over 3 decades of writing by farmers for farmers and Growing for Market magazine.